Okay, team, here we go. It is 6 a.m. here in Melbourne, Australia. It's 3 p.m. on the East Coast, and I thank you all so much for being here. I know it's crazy times. I know for a lot of you, it might even be in the middle of your teaching day, so we really do appreciate it. But it's kind of cool. It's really, really exciting that if you're here right now, it tells me that you're part of the crew that really, really, really want to be a part of this movement. And we can't thank you enough for that. So if you don't already know, my name is Baden Schaff. It is very early in the morning here. I do appear very angelic and very pale. I appreciate that. But what I want to do today is, guys, I just want to get you super excited about the online movement and what Skillest is all about. I want to talk about the potential of where we're going with this movement. And then we're going to give you a whole bunch of framework to not only frame your thinking around online learning, around Skillest, the platform itself, but what it can do for your current business, how you can integrate it into your live experience. But I want you more than anything to walk away from this. And if you're here, you're probably here because you already think this way, which is great, is that we are just at the tip of the iceberg of what is possible in terms of online learning. And this is just only going to expand more and more. And we know that it's probably going to be the majority of ways, or people will learn online more than they will learn in person in the future. And I know that sounds quite grandiose and quite a big vision, but we truly do believe that as the product improves, as all sorts of technology improves. So it's super, super exciting. Okay, so guys, the way we're going to do this is that I'll talk about myself really briefly and the origins of Skillest, where it's all come from, how things are going at the moment. And then we're going to sort of move into what's possible in the industry. And we're going to then talk about a whole bunch of best practices of how you can actually build out your profile. I'll show a slideshow, but we're also going to show a couple of clips. And then what we'll do is have a really, really quick sort of product run through as quickly as I can possibly do it, because there's a fair bit in the platform. And then beyond that, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A at the end of it. I've already got heaps of questions from coaches around the world that want to know a whole bunch of different things. And I'm trying to keep in mind that everyone is coming at this from a slightly different angle. Some people are looking at it as, or might have only just recently heard about Skillest. Some people have probably been trying to get on the platform for a couple of years now, sort of thing. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. And what we'll do is now I'm going to put up a bit of a slideshow and we'll just move into really who I am, I suppose. So my name is Baden Schaff, founder of Skillest. We've been going at this thing for about sort of 6 years or so, believe it or not. It's been a fantastic ride. We started the whole thing because I, like you, I'm a teaching pro and have been for the past 20 years, believe it or not now. So it's been a wild ride. And during that time, over those 20 years, and I think particularly because I'm an Australian and I'm living on the other side of the earth, and we feel so removed from the rest of the world at times, I jumped on planes and I traveled around the world and I taught in London and Singapore. I taught in the States for a little bit. So I traveled around the world and I just very quickly became aware of how much more of a global influence I wanted to have as a coach myself. And then also just how broken I think the learning model really is, and how we can improve it so much. Because I think that obviously what's happened in the past and the way the current learning model is, and everyone does things slightly differently, obviously, but probably the traditional model of like block lessons every once in a while, where we go for an in-person lesson for an hour, see you later, come back in 3 weeks, how's it all been going? It hasn't really worked. And I found that really, really frustrating as a coach who absolutely loved what I did. And I just wanted students to get better. But I also was acutely aware that as a coach, everyone teaches completely differently. And I wanted students to have access to all of the varying styles of coaching around the world, because I myself, I learned from a guy who was incredibly different in the way he taught compared to everyone else. And I was watching this guy. His name is Gary Edwin, and some of you may have heard this story already. But I moved to the Gold Coast when I was which is in Northern Australia, when I was 20 years old. And I literally learnt with this guy who was teaching multiple players on the US tour, who literally was radically different in the way he was teaching to everyone. And he was also doing lots of online lessons at the time. So all of this has sort of culminated in what Skillest has become now, where we're just literally trying to break down all geographic barriers and allow any student to learn from any coach anytime. So yeah, let's just really quickly, I'm going to share my screen and let me put this up. Let's present this. So, okay, so let's just quickly jump over to the next slide. And all right, so I mean, we've talked about this already, but let's just quickly go over it. So we all know that, you know, the current learning model is pretty broken. The students' learning is always localized. They can only learn from the coaches that live nearby. These 1 hour lessons have just been super ineffective and very transactional. I think that the thing that I've been really thinking about, you know, a lot over the last couple of years is that the thing we've always focused on in golf and golf tuition is that we've been obsessed with when the person's in front of us. All right. So we give them all this information and we're obsessed with that experience, and then they leave and, you know, we don't know what they're doing outside. And one of the spiels I give to all of my students when I see them in person these days, especially, is that I say to them, the next hour when I'm teaching you, that's the easy bit. When you walk out the doors and disappear, that's the super hard bit. And basically that's the hard bit we need fixed, the online component, the bit when they're not standing in front of us. So we need to try and fix that massive problem. Obviously, time restrictions mean that students can't come in to see you in person, and the student feels super intimidated in the lesson. And this is something we underrate and we don't realise is it's actually a pretty horrible experience a lot of the time for students to come in and learn in person. We obviously know how our businesses have been restricted by geography. Students have progressed at a slow rate, super unrewarding. So all of these things that I just talked about, and you guys already know about, I don't even really need to tell you. So what if we solve all of these things, right? So this is what I want to talk about, right? And I want to get you super excited about, and I said this at the start, but I want to reframe your thinking about where this is going to go, right? In terms of what online coaching is going to be. So Peloton is an amazing company, right? So a Peloton is obviously an at-home spin class. They send you the bike, and it's a $10 billion company now. It's just an absolutely incredible product. And what the way people would have potentially thought about Peloton before they went crazy and became really big is that when they started the company, most people would probably think that their market size was effectively anyone who'd ever been to a spin class. But that's actually not the case at all. Their market size were people who were at home, who wanted to go for spin classes, but they actually never went because of how horrible the actual experience was. They didn't want to go and sit next to sweaty people on a bike. They didn't want to go and have gym showers, all of these things. And there is no doubt that golf's exactly the same, right? We know that the golf industry is only, not only, but in America, there's $1 billion spent on golf lessons every single year. And there's absolutely no doubt that we can make that $2 or $3 billion if we make the experience so beautiful and so frictionless that you can learn from home at any time, anywhere, from the best coaches in the world who totally understand the product and can obviously teach people 24/7. So that's I want you to sort of think about how we can actually grow this industry, right? Because I think, as I've said before, the data's out there, but only 1 in 8 people or 1 in 9 golfers have ever had a golf lesson. And I think even that's probably a pretty generous number. And it's because of how horrible the experience can be, how intimidating it can be for students to go in and learn in person and hit balls in front of a pro. They don't know who to learn from. Students have no idea. And the barrier to test who they learn from is really, really high. So obviously to go and see someone in person and spend $150 on a lesson, students obviously don't always need hour-long lessons. Is that really a great way to learn? And then, as I've said, so moving from coach to coach, if the fit is not right, is impossible and time-consuming for the average student. So something that we've already seen on Skillest, right, which is sort of lending or suggesting that the behaviour is already starting to change, is that in person, the average, and we know all this because we've done our research, but like on average, the average student in person has 4 lessons a year and spends around $350. On Skillest, they are having 10 lessons a year and spending $600 a year. So what we've already started to do is when you start to strip back those friction points. When people can learn from home and do all of that stuff, they actually start spending more money and interacting more often. So 10 lessons versus 4 lessons every year, you can imagine how much faster people are learning. So it's really, really exciting where things are going. I've said, as I've said in the past, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but this is just all. I want to reframe your thinking on what this can be, because it really is important that we don't look at Skillest or even online learning as either a poor version of the in-person experience or something that's sort of like it's a little top up to your other business. And, it has to, the way you think about it is that you have to think about this can be the primary and potentially, and I'll talk about this in the future, the only way you earn money. Like, you mightn't even do much in-person stuff in the future. So I want you just to keep thinking about it in that sense, sort of thing. Okay, so really, really quickly, we know why now is the time for online, right? So now is the time for online because obviously COVID's been huge. It's been a horrible experience for everyone around the world. We've all been either locked down or we've had horrible experiences with losing loved ones or whatever it might be. But it has no doubt accelerated people's thinking around remote learning, coaching, whatever it might be. So when Zoom was first created, like the guy, Eric Yuan, who created Zoom, there is no way in the world he thought he was going to create a consumer product. Okay, there's no way he thought that this product was going to be used by everyone's grandmother or grandfather around the world. When he made it because he thought it was a great way for businesses to interact. But it was such a great product that it's now become a consumer product. So what that's done is changed everyone's behavior. Everyone expects to interact the way we are interacting now, even grandmothers and grandfathers. It's becoming more acceptable for that to be the way to learn. FlightScope Mevo Pluses, we've been speaking to the guys at FlightScope for a while now. They could not keep them on the shelf last year. It was absolutely insane. Skytracks are everywhere. We know that nets and screens are now, last year, I think they increased in sales by 400% or something like that. Everyone has their own at-home teaching, learning facility and teaching facility, which is super exciting. People are hitting balls at home. We know with social media, right? So everyone is going and looking online to learn from coaches that have created great content and really, really good messages. All of this stuff is like this perfect storm for people to start to change their thinking and they'll be expecting to learn a different way. See, that's really, really the different thing is that it's not just a case of is this a supplementary way of learning or something I could test? They'll expect to learn this way. Okay, so what have we learned and why we think it's a better way of learning, obviously? Okay, so a lot of you might have seen the Mia project. If you haven't seen this, jump on Instagram, hashtag the Mia project. Pretty cool. One of our coaches, Steve Giuliano, trained Mia, this woman in London, completely remotely during COVID. It was the coolest thing in the world. She was a complete beginner and she was hitting balls into a net. And Mia started talking about the small and often learning model. Okay, so something that she had never experienced, these blocks of like individual lessons. All she's ever done is learn online from Steve in little bite-sized packages. So this is something that you want to think about when you're coaching, right? You want to think about the online experience is completely different to the in-person experience. It's not about booking in these massive chunks. You might do 20 people in a day because you're doing these little smaller interactions with people. Is the student working on things the right way? Have they integrated the stuff that you want them to do? Are they doing the drills that you want them to do? And that doesn't need to be these big blocks. It just needs to be little check-ins. So if I was you, jump on Instagram and check out the hashtag Mia project. It was super, super cool. She talked about how removing the distraction of the course and learning at home has been incredibly powerful for her to actually change her goal swing. We know that in the past, probably the hardest thing to do for students is to actually go out on course and try and integrate things. So everything is sort of working towards just a better learning environment at home, controlled environments, on Zoom, with Skillest, in the comfort of your own home. It's really cool. Okay, so something that you need to think about as well is that online coaching is not easy, right? This is really difficult, but in that difficulty, it actually makes you a better coach, right? So we've got a guy like Jake Hutt, who a lot of you might know. So Jake's just a truly incredible guy, great content creator. But when Jake jumped on the platform, he said, I've got no idea what to do here. Right? He literally had no idea what he wanted or how to actually use the platform or communicate with students, because he's so used to just walking up and pushing people around that it was dragging new communication or degrees of communication out of him. It demanded more of his message, right? Because he can't just walk up to people, that because it's always been the easiest thing in the world. If someone just isn't quite getting it, you just walk up and push them and go, hey, just go there. But they need to understand why they need to be there. And what Skillest does is drag all that stuff out of you, where you need to be able to articulate that perfectly to a student. So it makes you a better coach, but it's not easy initially, and it's going to take time for you just to evolve your skills on the platform. There's no doubt about that. Also, guys, so obviously I'm on my rant here, but we will have questions. So just you can store them up. If you want to type them in now, go for it. I've already got a bunch, and I will answer these towards the end. But yeah, just fire away if you want. Never given a bad online lesson. This is the cool thing, is that when you're doing online coaching, the cool thing, especially when it's asynchronous and someone sends something through to you, you can sit on it for a couple of hours and have a look at it and take time. We know that in person, when you've got people lined up, you can be really, you can be forced into decision making really, really quickly. So all of these stuff is just like, is very much leading towards what we believe to be a better way to learn. And that's what we're trying to be. We're literally trying to, believe it or not, I know this sounds crazy, we're trying to replace the in-person experience. We really are. We want to make it so beautiful. And there's so many things in terms of technology, of what we're building, and then also, in terms of what we're building, but then other companies are building in terms of VR, AR. There's all sorts of stuff that's happening in the future that's going to make the at-home experience better than the in-person experience. Okay, so really quickly, this is sort of where now I'm starting to move into sort of the nitty-gritty of how you're going to be able to build a big business on Skillest for yourself. Okay, so it is just absolutely critical that you start creating a little bit of a global presence, and with that, creating a really clear message of the way you coach, all right, and what your preferences are and things like that. So, so what I mean by that is, like, obviously in the past, without social media, it's coaches have sort of lived in, especially the elite ones, have lived in like these little walled gardens, and no one even knows what these coaches are doing with their students, what's happening in the background. But they've been lucky enough that they've then obviously had big media platforms like golf.com or Golf Digest or whatever that will give them a voice and, you know, put them in magazines and stuff like that. But now you as a coach, you've got access to that as well through social and newsletters or whatever it might be. So what you need to do, especially as things start moving forward, where students can learn from anyone around the world, you need to continue to start telling your compelling story, whatever it might be. So obviously a guy like George Gankis, right? So George is absolutely incredible. And as I'll talk about in the future, we love all varying styles of coaching styles. So whether you love or hate what George does, it doesn't really matter. He's got a compelling story and he knows what he likes. Now, this is the thing that we know is really, really successful on Skillest, and something that potentially in the past as coaches we've shied away from because of what we've been told or what we're scared to do as coaches, is that you're not allowed to have preferences a lot of the time, or a model, like heaven forbid a model. Like, models are the scariest things in the world because people don't like the idea that you are confining people to one thing or the other. Now, that's what other coaches say a lot of the time, believe it or not, to other coaches, like, don't teach a model, be versatile. Students don't like that. Students love, especially ones on Skillest that are spending over $600 a year. That generally, and this is the other thing, the level of golfer on Skillest is like a handicap of 11, right? So they're better golfers, right? And so their handicap's 11, but we have touring pros on the platform. They want a coach that has a really, really clear vision and message for the way they teach. So I'm not talking about like putting people into cookie cutters, but they articulate things really, really well. This is so important. And this is actually something happened recently where a really famous coach came to the platform on Skillest. And when I say really famous, he's probably really famous on tour, right? So people know who he is on tour. You mightn't know who he is outside of that, but he teaches literally, multiple players inside the top 100 in the world. But when he came to the platform, because he's not well known and because he doesn't like social media, people aren't looking to learn from him, right? It's really, really interesting. He hasn't been as busy as we might have expected because his message isn't very clear. People don't know what they're getting for their lessons. So what I would say is that, and I know getting in front of cameras and stuff like that is really difficult, but you need to give people, especially as things move forward here, when students can learn from anyone around the world, you need to be able to articulate a pretty clear message. It's just super, super important. So that's one thing I would say on creating this global presence. Okay, so this is something really, really quickly. I'll just run through this. We're already seeing the lifestyles of coaches completely changing on Skillest. Super cool. We've got coaches are making up to $200,000 a year on the platform, but that is when they focus on this and it becomes like their primary way of actually coaching. We've already seen coaches that are building their own at-home learning coaching facilities. So they're actually, and hopefully there's no director of coaching out there at big facilities, but we're seeing things slightly change where some guys and girls are buying their launch monitors for at home, and they're doing all their skills lessons at home. So they're actually teaching from home, which is really, really exciting. So yeah, and one thing I would want to talk about, if we move into just really quickly what not to do, essentially, when you start your Skillest profile, because this is actually quite important, right? So what you want to avoid pretty much at all costs is that you don't want to just like put out in an email, in an email blast, and you don't want to put out in a post on Instagram or whatever, wherever it is, and say, I'm available for online lessons. And even worse than that, say, I'm available for online lessons if you can't get to see me in person, right? So that messaging is, as I said, it's different to the framework I was trying to explain at the start. So what that does is, first of all, if you just say, hey, I'm available for online lessons, students have no idea what an online lesson is more often than not. And second of all, if you you can't get to see me in person, you're framing it to the student that it's a worse version of the in-person experience, essentially. And straight away, it just sets things off on the wrong foot. So you want to try and avoid that sort of language at all costs. And then, as I said here, students have absolutely no idea what their expectation of an online lesson is. So if you just say, hey, I'm available for online lessons and sort of leave it at that, it basically, it doesn't give them any sort of framework to think around, okay, what do I get for that online lesson? What is it worth to me? Is it a better way to learn? So we need to use the language and the story that I was just talking about previously to be able to create content and tell that broader story to your followers, to your database, to whoever it might be, of this is what you get for this. This is what is expected. This is what you can expect. Education is everything, because as the primary online coaching platform in the world, right? So that's our focus. Like we love in-person coaching. I still do in-person coaching, but like our primary focus is literally to be the biggest online coaching platform in the world, is that we have a great responsibility to educate everyone around the world of what an online lesson is, the value of it, how it can be better than an in-person experience. So education is absolutely everything. And I'll play something in a second, which is from one of our coaches, Alex Riggs, which will sort of explain that a little bit further. And don't give up when you don't get early traction, all right? So this is the thing, is that sort of leads into the top one as well, is that a lot of people, they just say I'm available for an online lesson, and then what they'll do is pretty much just sit there and wait to see what happens, and nothing happens. There is so much more to that. We're obviously pouring students in the top of the funnel all the time to try and give you more and more students, but you need to be able to attract people not only from your database, but from our database and from our group of students. And it just takes time. Like, you've just got to be super patient with it. It really does. So that coach before that I described, who makes $200,000 a year, he's built that up over time, and he's done it with a whole bunch of different sort of methodologies. Okay, so, all right. So what I might do really, really quickly, so I'm just going to stop the share here, and then I'm just going to jump out here, and we're going to grab up Alex Riggs. So Alex is Sorry, let me just, 1 second, team. All right, so Alex Riggs, don't know if any of you know who Alex is, but Alex is just an absolutely amazing coach. And Alex is he's based in Dubai, from Canada. He's stuck in Dubai at the moment because I don't think he's coming back this summer to do any coaching. But Alex is literally, he got onto Skillest in the middle of last year in June. And he basically, he couldn't even set up his Stripe account on Skillest because the UAE in the United Arab Emirates, they don't actually facilitate Stripe. So he had to actually get his mother-in-law's bank account, and he just went to so much effort to make it all happen. And he literally went from 0 to about 40 or 50 subscribers in about 3 or 4 months. It was pretty amazing. I've never seen anyone grow as fast as he has, but he had a really, really specific way of doing it. He had some really cool methods of growing his profile. And the cool thing is, guys, is that what I'll do at the end of this and over the weekend, you're going to get like a little starter pack, and there's going to be a webinar with Shaheen Nakjavani, who is just super prolific on the platform. He sits down with his brother, who actually manages his Skillest profile. So you're going to get a webinar from him, a webinar from Steve and Juliana, a webinar from Alex, a webinar from one of our marketing gurus. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to send through to you to get the ball rolling. But this is, if I just share this now, this is sort of just a taste of what Alex did to really get the ball rolling, sort of thing. So what I'll do just really quickly is I want you to talk about how you were thinking about your first, say, 6 weeks on the platform and how you went from 0 to 1 and then beyond.
Well, like you said, those first couple of weeks are a little bit daunting, just because you're not quite sure, are you just going to get this massive influx, or is it just going to be crickets? And I would say that I was fortunate to already have a reasonable Instagram following kind of leading into it. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to put some stuff out there and hopefully that'll get some reach and we'll be able to get the ball rolling. But still with that, I would say the first few weeks, I was sort of waiting around, COVID had hit, and I'm just thinking, okay, this definitely isn't picking up as fast as I thought it might. And then as soon as I got a couple, we're talking like 2 or 3, the thing was that now gave me some video content. And as coaches, we're always looking for more video content. That gave me content to use on the Instagram side. And as soon as I had that combination, it was an instant feeder. Both sides fed each other. Having more people on Skillest allowed me to have more content. Having more content gave me stuff to throw onto Instagram. The Instagram got the word out on Skillest, and it was just a constant sort of tornado effect from there. So I would say that it really was sort of being patient and just continuing to get the message out there. Because it was funny, even 2 to 3 months in, I'd get messages from people going, do you offer online lessons? And then I'd kind of chuckle and go, well, what the heck have I been marketing for the last 2 months? These people haven't even realized that stuff yet. So no, it was quite an interesting experiment for the first couple of months. But as soon as the ball was rolling, it was just the momentum was there, and then it just kept growing. Okay.
So that's a really cool clip, I think, because Alex, he's obviously a really good communicator. He articulates things well, but even he was had this really slow start to everything that he was doing. So it just takes a little bit of patience. That whole clip, obviously, that goes for half an hour. There was a webinar that I did with Alex. Everyone's going to be able to watch, but it just shows you his thinking around education, constantly telling people what online learning is all about, how you can get better, and those things. But I think that it's just so important that as he said, even after months of constantly promoting that he was doing online lessons and this is how it works, people were still not completely aware of everything, of do you even offer online lessons or what an online lesson is? So you can never assume that students know exactly what online coaching is all about. You have to use, obviously in his situation, what he did an incredible job of was sharing, using the content that he was creating and then sharing that constantly across his media channels, and then being able to broaden that out so that more and more people would come. and see him. So
yeah, 100%.
let me just quickly
I think that,
just get rid of this.
It's all about awareness.
Okay.
Initially,
Correct.
So
people.
all right. Sorry guys, just jumping all over here a little bit, but that's all good. Okay, so let's just present this one more time. Okay, here we go. So how do we get this flywheel moving? How do we get your business moving? This is, you know, it's one of the hardest things to do. It's just to go from 0 to 1 is really, really difficult, but it's all about momentum and word of mouth and creating that flywheel as we were just talking about. So we know from looking in the background that, with the data that every 4th user tells their friend to get a lesson, right? So, which is really, really incredible. Well, like when we look at everything in the background, we know that about 25% of every single person, every single guy and girl on the app learning from a coach has come because their friend has told them. So what it means is that you need to start creating this little community that are then telling their friends about it, telling their friends about it, telling their friends about it. And there's no doubt that there's sort of this critical mass of about, say, 8 students or so, that once you get that, you can really not only start using the content from all of the online lessons to push to your social, but then they start telling their friends, right? And the great thing is that you can then use their testimonials. So testimonials are so powerful. Everyone, especially in what we're doing, which is like, okay, what the heck is an online lesson? If friends are seeing their friends talk about how good something is, they're going to do it. Word of mouth is the most powerful, powerful marketing force. And the great thing about the testimonial thing is that within that starter pack we're going to send to you, we actually give you a Skillest testimonial template. And it's really, really cool. So basically you'll be able to put your head there. And in Skillest, students always give you reviews and ratings and things like that within the app. And you can then pluck out all of the ratings and reviews and you can put it into this template. And then you can distribute that through your email, database, social media, wherever it might be. So that it's building this community, getting people to tell their friends, using testimonials and creating a flywheel so that it literally starts creating its own momentum. Okay, so response time is absolutely key. Okay, so one of the things that obviously one thing we've learned, right, is that it's really easy for you to believe that maybe your online students aren't as important as your in-person students. And it's because it's digital, because it's online, because you don't know who they are a lot of the time. You don't know them personally. You can't be held to account. Some people just sort of let it go, you know, and it might be 3 or 4 or 5 days before they get back to someone. There is a direct correlation between how quickly you respond to someone and how quickly your business grows. So it's really, really important that you do that. And as I said, like it comes back to stuff I've already talked about. Don't see this as like a supplementary thing or a second hand thing or a poorer version of. You have to see this as a primary thing. So if you do that, your response time will be just as if someone was standing in front of you and you're doing the in-person thing. Okay, so I'm going to show you in the app in a second, but one of the most powerful things in the platform is that we allow you to create free vouchers. So you can actually create a free online lesson voucher and send that to anyone. And it is so easy to use. You literally send them a free voucher. You can then send them a link to your profile in Skillest. They hit the link, it opens up in your Skillest profile. So it avoids the marketplace and stuff like that. And then it goes straight to your profile. They redeem the voucher and they can get an online lesson from you. This is all for free. So we've thought about all these really cool tools. You need to use these, right? So use them in a bunch of different ways. Use them by giving vouchers to your friends and saying, thanks so much for being an awesome student. I really appreciate it. Here's a free voucher to send to one of your friends. And if you can get that person in, you show them the value of what an online lesson is. Give them an amazing analysis, send them all the drills and everything you need to do, and then show them the value. And then that's when you're more likely to bring more and more people on board. So when it comes to content as well, you've got to give away. So like, as I said before, if you can have the best message in the world, you can be an amazing teacher, but if you're not getting the message out there and giving stuff away, people won't come to you. It's really, really, it's very obvious that it's about giving as much, or just give away, whether it's content, free online lessons, whatever it might be, to get the ball rolling, okay? So you might be sitting at home on a Sunday afternoon, it's freezing cold outside or whatever it might be, you have a day off. If you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to dedicate today to do like 20 online lessons with people I've never met before, that in itself can create so much value. And something that one of our coaches did, right? So you can see here, giveaways and prizes and all of these things. What they do is obviously they create the ratings and reviews so people can start to see, wow, there's a bit of social proof here. This coach really knows what they're talking about. It's very hard to start from nothing and just sit there and say, hey, send me some swings, people, okay? It's very, very difficult to do that. But if you can create, do lots of giveaways to get going, all of a sudden it looks like you're really busy, even if it's free stuff that you're giving away, that will then bring more people into your profile, gives you ratings and reviews. You can use that content to then redistribute, get that flywheel going. So one of our coaches, and what's really, really cool is that most people think that, well, I've got to have 80,000 followers on Instagram or whatever to get really busy at this. It is absolutely not the case. So, there's a famous saying talking about, you need your 1,000 true followers, right? You need, if you've got 1,000 people that love what you're doing, you can be a multi-millionaire. And I've got absolutely no doubt about that. But in Skillest, if you want to create a business that's like $100,000 a year, you only need 200 people or 150 people that are really, really obsessed with what you're doing. So if you think about that, right, you think about, rather than how am I going to bring in all these people from around the world to create a big business, you just need to get your framework down to something like, how do I get 50 people obsessed with what I'm doing, 100 people obsessed with what I'm doing, 150 people obsessed with what I'm doing? And one of our coaches, a guy called Toby McGeckney, Toby literally, he's actually an Australian guy. He lives up on the south coast of New South Wales in the middle of literally nowhere. You wouldn't even know who this guy is. He's got a small social media following, or he did have until he started using Skillest content to throw into his socials. But what he literally did in his Instagram, I think he only had like 900 followers. He actually went into every single person's DMs who was following him. And he said, thank you so much for following me. Here is a free online lesson for any problems you want me to solve. I'd love you to hit this link, go to my Skills profile, send me some swings. And from that, he has created a massive business to the point where he's done exactly what I talked about before, where he has built his own at-home facility now, where he just does Skillest lessons all day long. And this was from a really small base, but he created this community. He interacted with them, he sent them free things, and he got this momentum going. Because as soon as that you've got a student in your profile, even if it's from a free online lesson, you've then got every chance of converting that person into a subscriber. Okay, so pricing. Let's have a chat about pricing. So everyone always asks about pricing. How do I price this thing? I've never got an amazing answer for this, but I've got a pretty good one. Okay, so you can always start low and move up. And to be perfectly honest, that's what most people have done. If you have like an entry level price where people can sort of get in, understand what you're about, and then you can start building it up and up and up. And the great thing is in Skillest is that you can create a subscription. And when you move up, so say it started $100 a month or something like that, you can then you can pause that subscription or remove that subscription, put a $200 subscription in, and it won't affect the previous people. Okay, which is really exciting. So if you can just go, okay, I'm going to get the first 10 people at $100 a month, right? And that gives them 24-hour access to you. But as soon as it gets to 10, I'm going to make it $200. It starts to create some scarcity, obviously. So people know that you're slowly increasing your prices. And then what it does, it actually locks the people in who've gone in at $100. They're like, okay, if I cancel my subscription, I've got to then resubscribe at $200 or whatever it might be. So with pricing, I think it's just really important that you start somewhere that's relatively affordable, and then you can sort of move up. And that's exactly what the biggest coaches have done on the platform. Okay, so let me just quickly check. What time have we got here? I think we're so much gone. We could probably go on for 2 hours, guys, so I'll try and keep moving here. Okay, so at the end of each lesson, when you give someone a golf lesson, it is the most important thing is that they know what their next steps are. If you get to the end of a golf lesson, online lesson in Skillest, and it's like, here's your analysis, thanks for that, good luck, it's almost guaranteed they won't come back to you. Not because they don't want to, but they don't know what to do. They literally have, I've seen this, I actually had a student I taught in person who got a lesson from a great coach, right, who's over in America. I won't incriminate him. On Skillest, and he came to see me because he heard I was the founder of Skillest, and we did some in-person stuff, and we fixed up his full swing. But he said, oh yeah, I got some lessons from this guy. He said, but I just didn't know where to go. Like I didn't know what my next move was. He's like, I've still got like a subscription with him, but I don't know where the next steps are. So that is the last thing that you want. You never want you don't want a student to get to the end of the lesson and not have the next steps to move forward. Okay, so set long-term plans for students. So many of you probably already do this in person. So it's really, really important that you can do this for your students long-term so that they can see where they're going. They need to know where they're going and have really structured steps to do that. Now, the cool thing is, I don't know if I'll show this to you really, really quickly in a second, but we've got Zoom integrated into the platform and it's been super powerful. The way it is at the moment is it sits within each lesson. So you could say to someone, hey, if you do an online lesson with me, I'll throw in a free 15-minute Zoom session. So this is really great for building those social connections with someone, because obviously the asynchronous, when someone is sending swings through to you, and it's literally just the video analysis component, you don't have that real bond with someone, and it can make it sort of easier for them to break that bond a little bit and maybe move onto another coach or something like that, or move away from the platform altogether, which we definitely don't want happening. Use the Zoom feature inside the app to promote yourself, create these amazing relationships with your students. And to be perfectly honest, it works really, really well, and just as well as the in-person experience. So I've got students who put their AirPods in and literally hit balls, and they're on the other side of the earth and they're hitting balls while they're listening to me talk to them with the video up next to them. So that's really, really powerful as well. Okay, so they're just some really cool tips just to get the party started, sort of thing, on how you can get the ball rolling with your business. It's all about little incremental improvements, okay? So, and incremental growth. So you just need to see it as something, okay, I've just got to get those first couple of subscribers. How do I do that? What do I have to give away? Who do I have to tell? What content do I have to share? How do I get their friends to tell their friends? It's really, really important. Obviously, all of what we're doing all the time is putting students in the top of the funnel. But it's also like you want people coming in the top of the funnel and then people coming in from the side of the funnel, which is when they bring their friends on and things like that. So that's really important. Okay, so how Skillest works with and promotes you. So I'll try and go through this relatively quickly in a second. But obviously, in Skillest, when a student comes to the platform, we've got like this Skillest Select, which is like a rolling 30 coaches that we present to the students when they first come to the platform. Now, the way we work that algorithm of who we show, it actually changes every 6 hours or so. And what it does is basically it has 6 brand new coaches on the platform. It has 6 old coaches that have been around forever. And then it has 6 coaches that have got good reviews and that have had great reviews recently. So, and that rolls through every 6 to 9 hours effectively. But we also have the ability to surface you if you're doing really well. If your response time's amazing and if you're getting great reviews, we've got the ability to surface you to the top of the Skillest Select as well. So that anytime someone downloads the app and they're looking for an instructor, you're going to be there at the very forefront of that. Okay, so we obviously do awesome collaborations with content, and we distribute that through our social and also through our newsletter. We've got tens of thousands of people on our newsletter that are always looking to discover new coaches. So what we can do with you, and we've done this with all of our coaches, we do like student swing analysis, we do coach interviews, we do, you can see we've started doing awesome clubhouse chats, and we did one on Saturday with Sean Foley, who is coming onto the platform. So Sean's about to launch his Skillest profile in the next couple of weeks, which is really exciting. We've got, we help you understand how to create content and how to create effective content, not only to distribute through Skillest, but how to actually create your socials and really get that moving as well, because we've learned so much from that. We've seen coaches that have gone from 0 followers on social media up to almost. Keith Bennett is one that I think about. Keith, when he started on the platform, started at like 3,000 followers on Instagram, and he's now, and this is 2.5 or 3 years ago, and now he's got 80,000 followers on Instagram. And we've sort of worked with him, and he's been able to lead and help a lot of our other coaches create cool content as well. WhatsApp, I'm not sure if all of you know what WhatsApp is, but we've got a WhatsApp channel where we've got like 50 awesome coaches on it, and we can put you into that WhatsApp channel. And we're always talking about, okay, this is what we're doing, and I found this really worked really well to create and grow my profile. I'm also jumping in there all the time, going, hey guys, new feature, or we found a bug. Let us know if you found a bug in the app. Really cool community we can throw you into to make sure that you're sort of interacting with the best around the world and understanding best practices. Okay, so once you're in the app, so there's just a few expectations of what we want from you. And what, I mean, it all comes back to just helping each other and, making sure that you're having an amazing experience and that we're having an amazing experience, and we can like work together to create this amazing movement and amazing community. But as I said, timely responses. Okay, so that is just such a big part of it. You've got to reply to your students really, really quickly, as often as possible. We always say within like 48 hours is a bare minimum sort of thing with the asynchronous when people send you swings. High duty of care. Obviously, if you're here, there's no doubt that that's already what you do. Like you provide like amazing duty of care to your students, because if you're here, you probably care a lot about what you're doing. I know a lot of coaches that would never be here at this time of the day, whether it be 6 a.m. in Australia, whether it be 7 o'clock on a Friday night in London, or whether it be 3 o'clock in New York and you're missing out on some golf lessons. If you're here, you probably really, really care about what you're doing. So no doubt you're going to show that duty of care. As I said, you have to treat your online as exactly the same as your in person. So it's so easy not to do that, but you've just got to be really careful about that. Let's create amazing content together and let's share it together. Like I'm absolutely love doing that across my socials and seeing coaches that have literally gone from zero and not having much of a social presence, like starting to create amazing content, and we can do that together and we can share it across our channels. And we just need you to be part of a broader coaching community that shares ideas, encourages each other, and is not critical of differing coaching styles. So I think we're getting a lot better at that in the industry. Well, hopefully on Skillest, like we are super harmonious. Like I've never seen one Skillest coach say, hey, how dare you teach that way, to another Skillest coach, because we're a broad church, as it were, of teaching styles. Like I'm never going to tell you how to teach. We just want you to show a lot of care, and we just know that if we can all come together, share. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's about idea sharing, really. And we've got coaches that are learning from other coaches all the time on the platform, so they're sending their swings across. So that's all we expect from you. Now, the next steps, right, are theirs. Really quickly, we're going to do a webinar. We're probably going to set it for 4 weeks. I think it's probably a really good idea for the 30 or 40 people that are sort of involved in this onboarding. We'll do it in 4 weeks, but I want you to stay in contact with me. You can do that through social, obviously, but do it through through my email, which is baden@skillest.com. I'm going to send you a starter kit. We know over this weekend, it's going to have a little explanation on how the platform works itself, and like the intricacies of all the features. And then it's also going to have all that content that I talked about. It's going to have the templates that you are going to be able to use for your ratings and reviews and your testimonials. It's also going to have all the Skillest assets within it, so you can use our branding and colorways and stuff like that to put out through your social or whatever, wherever you want to use it. So you're going to get that over the coming day. And what I want you to do, though, is that within that 4 weeks, you want to try and start creating a couple of pieces of content a week. One of them can be just an instructional one, and then one of them can be like showing you the value, showing students the value of what an online lesson is all about. So if you give away some free online lessons over the next few days, and that's the other thing, you will, over the next 24 hours, get your login to your Skillest profile. If you start sending out some free vouchers, take that content and redistribute it through your profile. Okay, so yeah, this is what we would love to see happen, to just get the flywheel happening over the next 4 weeks. 2 pieces of content a week. All right, so 1 instructional, 1 showing the value of Skillest, and then try and give away 10 online lessons in that period. And 4 of those you can give to a friend of a friend to try and create more and more of a flywheel. So that's all we want you to do, really, to get the ball rolling. But beyond that, you can go crazy. Do whatever you need to do to really, really get that ball rolling. But you want to try and get some ratings and reviews as fast as you can. Use that content and then redistribute it. But just start at this. It's always just going to take a little bit of time. If you give yourself to the end of the season to have you know, 15 subscribers that are paying you $100 to $200 a month, you might want to increase the prices after that time. You might be making a few $1,000s by the every month, even more than that. I mean, as I've said, we've got people on the platform making hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if you can be making $3,000, $4,000 a month, that's purely through online, then you're away. Because as I said, that'll then give you your flywheel to work with. Okay, team. So that's a fair bit of stuff. Thanks so much for that. Obviously, you can get in contact with me on my Instagram there. But, oh, sorry, on my email there. What I'm really quickly going to do, because I know some of you are probably going to run to lessons and things like that. I'm just going to show you the most important things to get. Let me stop that share. Okay, to get your, let me just get this up. To get your profile started, okay, I'm going to show you the most important things. I'm just got to get, here it is. Okay. Here's my profile on Skillest, right? Let's have a look at the app itself, right? So, bang, there it is. So hopefully you can see that. All right, so this is, you can see if I just run across the bottom really quickly on this profile, let me just move some stuff. Okay, so you can see here that at the bottom I've got my profile, then I've got my videos, then I've got my students, which is my database of students, my messages, so that's really cool. So anyone, the great thing about Skillest is it's completely consumer facing, right? So you can put it out there and anyone around the world can come into your profile and start interacting with you. So there's a message button in your profile so that when students go in there, they can literally, even if they've never met you before, they can start talking to you. So your messages will arrive there. Your lessons are on the far left-hand tab. But if I start in the profile here, the most important thing is your payment setup. So we've had a question before about, you know, how do the interactions work through Skillest? Do you have a payment processing platform? Skillest is a complete end-to-end solution, right? So it has all of the payment processing integrated into the app. So when someone goes in and buys an online lesson in Skillest, the money goes straight through to your bank account, and then Skillest puts a 15% lesson fee on top of that, right? So that's the business model. Once you set up your bank account in Stripe, which is our payment processing platform, unbelievable platform, Skillest will just put another 15% on top of the lesson fee. So if you set your online lesson fee at, say, let's say $100 for an online lesson, Skillest charges the student $115. So that's what the business model is. There's no cost to you at this to set your profile up at all. That we charge the student the lesson fee. So you can start using the app with absolutely no outlay of money whatsoever. So let's go really quickly to the payment setup. So if I hit this button here, what you can see here is that it says price for a single lesson. I set that. I set my currency. So depending on where you live, you can set your currency. I do suggest probably USD, like the majority of our students are from America. And often if you're in the UK or if you're in Scandinavia, most people don't know what a krona is, for example, right? So it is a good idea to operate in USD if you think a lot of the UK guys do actually operate in British pound. It's entirely up to you. But you can see here where it says view account. In your profile, it will say connect to Stripe. Okay, so when you hit that button, you will then go into Stripe. It'll the website will appear inside the app, and then you can set up your bank details. It'll ask you a few questions. It only takes about 15 minutes or something like that to do. Once you've done that, quite literally, once you've set up your bank details, hooked it up to Stripe, you've then set up your online lesson price, you are ready to start teaching anyone from around the world. And a button will appear in your profile when a consumer looks at it saying online lesson, and they can literally put their credit card details in and start sending you stuff for money. Okay, so that is the most important first step. You've got to go in, set up your bank details, and then you can start receiving cash, which is exactly what we're doing this for. Okay, now if I jump out of here, the next most important thing is if I go down to pricing and plans. Okay, so you can see here, what we have in Skillest are pretty much, there's four, right? There's four ways to charge. There's obviously that individual lesson I've just said, right? Then you've got a 7-day pass. You can see here. So there's my 7-day pass, which is a 7-day period where people can interact with me as many times as I basically set out. And I'll show you that in a second. So that's like it's much better than I think than an individual session, because you get to an individual session, it's done, and then there's no sort of recourse or no way to interact. You go, hey, am I working on this the right way? We then also have subscriptions. So subscriptions basically is 24/7 swing support, we call it, pretty much, right? It doesn't work out like that. Like, we know that students on average only send through around about, it's about 3 sessions or swings a month. So it sounds like it's full-time support, but really they only interact with you sort of once a week or something like that on average. And obviously that can change. It can be maybe 4 times in a week, and then they go away and work at it for a bit. Like, it does vary quite a bit. And then you've got a yearly plan essentially. But what I'm going to do is just hit edit 7-day pass. And I'm just going to show you that you can actually go in and set out like a mini curriculum. So you can set the price that you want to charge for a 7-day pass, the number of online lessons that you want to provide. You can then set up a live video session. So that's Zoom if you want. And then you can go in here, and we've already got these categories set up for you. So this is what I offer: a detailed video analysis of your golf swing using Skillest analytical tool. So you can either keep those boxes checked, or you can add more and type in your own curriculum, depending on what you offer. You might be a short game person, you might be a putting person, whatever it might be, and you can go through and really detail that. So that is exactly the same way that you set up your subscriptions as well. You go in and you basically type out a little curriculum. So you can see my game improvement subscription. If you jump across, you'll be able to see that's how I've set that up. So you just hit create plan in the top right-hand corner to do that, and it asks you, do you want a 7-day pass subscription or whatever it might be. Okay, so I'm running out of time a little bit here, everyone. So I'm going to race through this relatively quickly. As I said, what I'm going to do is send you that starter pack, and you'll actually have a little how-to video on how the entire platform works. My videos, they live here. Okay, so these videos are just videos that I basically use as models for my analysis tool, but they're also pieces of content that I send out to students all around the world, so that when they go to my Skillest profile, they can see what I am all about. Messages, as I said, these are messages from students all around the world who have started speaking to me before they actually start to learn from me. So that's a really cool feature. This is where all of my lessons live, right? So you can see here that I've got some online lessons to do. Anytime I've got a red button, a red dot, there's a lesson to do. So this is Matt Fryer. So Matt's a guy, he's actually got a really big YouTube channel. He's sent some swings through, and you can see here that once it arrives, I get an email notification. I just hit analyze, then I can compare it if I want. I can then compare it to any model swings that I want. If I press compare, go to Skillest stored videos. All right, so and then I basically analyze it, send it back, and basically they get an email notification. I can also, within this lesson story, attach any drills that I want. You can see here in the analysis component, I can put that's where any analysis I do goes. I'm rushing through this, everyone, but I will send you a much more detailed video on how all of this works. And then what I'm going to do is just really quickly, this is the last little bit, I'm going to jump over to show you what it looks like from the student point of view. You might have a student profile already, but once you connect to Stripe, once people can learn from you, your profile will look like this. So if I go into, there's Alex's profile. So this is Alex's profile. The cool thing about this is that if you send them your direct link, they go straight to here. They don't see the marketplace. They just go straight to your profile. And then what you can see here is that Alex has got a 4.97 rating. He's had 547 reviews. He's done 1,150 online lessons on the platform. You can see where he is. You can see what his response time is. And then I can actually go in, look at all of his reviews, and then go through and see what people are actually saying about him. And then if I want to get an online lesson, I go, okay, Alex is the perfect guy for me. I hit online lesson. I want a one-off video analysis. He's now charging $200. It didn't used to be that expensive. And then once I get here, I can then go in. I've already got my stored videos in there, but I can pull anything out of my photo library, anything out of my stored videos in Skillest. And basically then the student just says, hey, Alex, struggling with whatever it might be. And then all they then do is proceed to payment, put in their credit card details, and they send it through to you. It's that easy. It's super, super crazy easy. Now, that, guys and girls, is an incredibly fast version of what the platform does. I've got a couple of questions here, so I'm just going to what I'm going to do is just stop this share really, really quickly, jump out. Okay, so just a couple of questions in closing here, maybe the last 5 minutes, team. Okay, hi, can you post? So at the moment, you can post some PDFs, but they have to come from your photo library effectively. So you can put any, so if you've got TrackMan data or whatever it is, you just need to be able to pull it out of your photo library to do. We're actually creating some other features within the app. We're potentially changing the way the lesson structure is so that you can attach as many Google files or whatever you need to. So yeah, that will happen. Absolutely, Kyle. Thanks for that question. Trevor, so when you put your pricing in, what you put in, you basically just put in the price that you want to charge. And then what happens is that the student sees a different price. So when you put that $100 in, that isn't what gets charged to the student. The student gets charged $115. So whatever you put in doesn't reflect exactly what the student gets. We will put the 15% on top of that. And then does the student get instructions on how to take the video? Yes, they do. We've got a video literally explaining to them on a video explaining to them exactly what angles are preferred. So yeah, that does taken care of. We've got another question. How does this work with taxes in the US? So basically the way Stripe works is that it's connected to your bank account. Stripe is an incredible payment processing platform where you manage everything, right? So you can see how much money you're making, and then you basically run your own taxes through that, essentially. So it's not a case of Skillest paying you. It's literally you're setting up your own bank details in Stripe, and Stripe has got incredible dashboards of what of all of the activity that you've had, of how much money you're making, of how much recurring payments you've got, and then you can basically run your own entire business through Stripe, which is run off your bank account, and then you can do your taxes equivalent accordingly. So it's not a case. Skillest is effectively the conduit. We are the platform, and then we allow you, and then we provide all of the payment processing platforms, and you can manage it yourself effectively from there. So really, really easy to do. It's a really beautiful process. Okay, so we've got a couple more questions coming in. Sorry, last one. Sorry, can you record yourself while analyzing a student's video? Yes, you can. I think I understand that. So, so basically this, and I'll show you how well the tool works when I send this profile, so when I send this thing through to you. What you can do, the tool is so good. I demand a lot of my video analysis tool. Like, I am obsessed with video analysis. This is half the reason that the platform exists. Unbelievable ability to pause recordings. You can then literally turn the camera on yourself, film yourself doing demonstrations, then go back to the analysis, pull in video. It is the most versatile analysis tool, super powerful, and it makes the movies in real time. That's what's really cool, that when you're drawing your lines, analyzing, bringing in models, then pausing the recording, turning the camera on, doing all of that. Once you press finish, it instantly makes the recording and puts it into the student's profile. So it happens really, really, really quickly. Super powerful. So I'll send that through to you. Okay, and will this be recorded? Yes, this has been recorded, everyone. So I will send this out to everyone. And it will probably, I'll actually send it as a part of the starter pack that you're all going to get over the weekend with your login details and all the other content. Okay, everyone, I hope that has got you started. We are just so excited about this movement and where it's going. I have no doubt that as the technology continues to improve, as people's behavior continues to change, this is going to be the way everyone learns. And you are, as a coach, going to be super empowered to teach whenever you want. I mean, obviously I'm running Skillest, but I've recently moved to more of a coastal lifestyle. I used to live in a city. It was, there's 7 million people in the city I live in Melbourne. And I've now moved down the coast away from the city and away from my academy, because I've also, not only have I got Skillest that we're building and hopefully doing a pretty good job of, but I have also got recurring income coming through Skillest. And I've got now a downstairs studio and I'm teaching there. I'm teaching from there. It's pretty amazing, and it's, you know, changing the way people's lifestyles are occurring. Okay, everyone, thank you. That was an hour of power, a little bit more than an hour of power. Go out and get back onto the lesson tee, or go and have dinner, or do whatever you need to do. Thank you so much for attending. I will distribute everything to you. We are welcoming you to the Skillest family, and we want to make you as successful as possible. So let us know if there is anything else we can do. Hold on, have we got one more question? Okay, how do you get a dope Skillest lid? That is a really good question. I will send them to you. Okay, we've sent out like a bunch to everyone. We've got heaps of different colors. If you're really interested in that, baden@skillest.com, email me and we will send them out to you. We'll send you like 10 if you want, and you can do them, send them out in giveaways. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for attending. I'm going to go and have some breakfast now. Okay, let's work together and make this a magic thing. Okay, team, see you soon.